Hi, Matt from Useful Charts here. First of all, let me state that I am a huge fan of CGP Grey. I think his videos are great, and if he were to comment below, I would squeal out loud like a little kid. Second, I'm not going to claim that CGP Grey is wrong on any fundamental point. I'm actually just going to point out one teensy tiny technical mistake that he made in one of his videos. But the thing is that one mistake comes up in the comments on my channel quite a bit, and therefore I thought I would address it and use it as an excuse to talk about some of the terminology used when it comes to monarchies. Okay, so here's the part of the CGP Grey video that I'm talking about. This is from his video entitled Vatican City Explained. Using this chart, he explains that the Pope is both the supreme ruler of the Catholic Church, but also the supreme ruler of the world's smallest country, Vatican City. And he's right. The Pope is indeed both a religious leader and a secular leader. But he used the word king when he should have used the word monarch. Now, I don't really blame him for this. It's an easy mistake to make because in casual everyday speech, the words king and monarch are often used interchangeably. But technically there is a difference. And the fact is the Pope is a monarch, but he is not a king. Here's the thing. The term monarch is actually sort of an umbrella term for a head of state who has the position for life, unless of course they decide to abdicate, and who usually gets their position based on inheritance, although there are some monarchs who are elected and some who get the position by right of conquest. But basically, the word monarch is a huge category that includes lots of different options. Let me name just a few. King, Queen, Emperor, Empress, Grand Duke, Grand Duchess. But it doesn't stop there. There's also Pharaoh, Khan, Shah, Mansa, Maharaja, Sultan. So what's the official monarchical title for the Pope? Well, it's not king, nor is it the Latin equivalent rex. To find out the exact term, we have to look at the Constitution of Vatican City, which is titled The Fundamental Law of Vatican City-State. It was last updated in the year 2000 by Pope John Paul II. According to the English version, the Pope's official secular title is simply sovereign, and in Italian it is sovrano. You see, if the Pope was actually a king, then the name of the country where he reigns would be the Kingdom of the Vatican. But it is not. It is simply Vatican City-State. By way of analogy, let's look at some other European monarchies. The second smallest country in the world after Vatican City is Monaco, and it too is ruled by a monarch. But again, the monarch of Monaco, currently Albert II, is not a king. He's a prince, and we can tell this simply by looking at the official name of the country, which is the Principality of Monaco. Which brings me to an important point. There are actually two different types of princes, or if we're talking about females, princesses. The more commonly understood type of prince or princess is a person who is the son or daughter of a king. So in the UK, for example, we have Prince Charles and Princess Anne. In some cases, depending on the country, other descendants such as grandchildren can hold the title too. Hence we get Prince William, Prince Harry, and so forth. But there's another totally different type of prince, a sovereign prince, like Albert II, the Prince of Monaco. His father was not a king. Instead, his title simply indicates that he is the reigning monarch of a principality. Principalities generally being much smaller than a kingdom. And currently in Europe, we have one example of a monarchy that fits in between a kingdom and a principality, and that is the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. So yet again, the head of state of that country, Henri, is a monarch, but he's not a king. Because he reigns in a Grand Duchy, his title is Grand Duke. So sometimes the choice of title has to do with size. Princes generally have small territories, dukes have medium-sized territories, and kings have large territories. But what about emperors then? Are emperors simply monarchs with even more territory than a kingdom? Well, no, not always. Sometimes empires are indeed very large, like the Mongol Empire. But sometimes they are quite small, like the Empire of Nicaea. So how exactly does one become an emperor of an empire? Well, I'd say there are actually 4 ways. The easiest way is to simply declare yourself an emperor, like Jean Bedel Bokassa did when he created the Central African Empire in 1976. But Bokassa was really just a dictator, and no one really considered his short-lived country to be a true empire, so I wouldn't really recommend this route. A second, much more respectable way to become an emperor is to somehow convince people that you are the legitimate successor of Caesar Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. So obviously this is why the medieval rulers of Constantinople were called emperors, but also why the term, or something similar, was used by the Holy Roman Emperors, the Russian Tsars, Napoleon, the German Kaisers, and a bunch of other European monarchs who felt that they were somehow superior to the other lesser monarchs of Europe. But alas, I wouldn't really recommend this route either. The idea of there being an emperor on the European continent kind of fell out of favor like 102 years ago. A third way to become an emperor is to reign over a territory that includes more than one country or people group. So, for example, Cyrus the Great of Persia was originally king of just one small city-state called Anshan. But then he conquered a bunch of other small kingdoms as well as some pretty big ones. He therefore adopted the title King of Kings, or Emperor, meaning that within his realm were a bunch of smaller realms. So, with an empire, it is possible to have a monarchy within a monarchy. And this was certainly the case with several of the European empires I mentioned earlier, such as the Holy Roman Empire. The fourth and final way is to simply hang on to a title that's been around for a really long time. This is the situation in Japan, the only monarchy in the world today that still uses the title emperor. Originally, Japan was divided into a bunch of smaller kingdoms, or at least something similar to kingdoms, and the ruler of one of those, called Yamato, eventually came to be the dominant one. They therefore adopted a title similar to the one used by the Chinese emperor at the time, and have kept it ever since, even though Japan is now a single unified country, and hasn't really been an empire since World War II. Okay, before I go, let me address the issue of female monarchs. Just like there are 2 types of princes, there are also 2 types of queens. The first type of queen is simply the wife of a king. In this case, the queen is not a monarch. She's just married to one. The technical term for this type of queen is a queen consort. So an example would be Queen Maxima of the Netherlands. But in other cases, the queen is the actual monarch, not her husband. The UK is an excellent example. Queen Elizabeth became monarch because her father, the previous monarch, did not have any sons. The technical term for this type of queen is queen regnant, meaning a reigning queen. Note that Queen Elizabeth does have a husband, but he does not use the term king consort. Instead, he uses the title prince consort, as did the husband of Queen Victoria. So there you have it, the weird and wacky world of monarchical terminology. Or is that monarchical? Monarchical? See, I told you it was weird. Thanks for watching.